And we are back, coming to you live from the ESL CM Storm Arena at Gamescom 2012. But we have got something coming up that is really special. The guys over at Hi-Rez have brought us Smite. It's an exciting game that everybody's looking forward to. I know I am, and I know that you guys are interested to see how this game is going to work out. But in order to do that, the only way I can think of, because nobody wants to see me play this game, is invite somebody who is going to be able to play this game. And for that, I'm going to invite Team Alternate up on the stage. Guys, come on up. Round of applause for Team Alternate, please. So joining me up on stage today, after you, good sir, is Sven down at the end. Sven, say hi to the audience. Jonathan, Christopher, Sebastian, and my good friend Martin. But of course, this won't be a game unless they have somebody to play against. And in order to do that, we have Team ESL that's going to be coming out. Come on out, guys. Big round of applause. Now this motley crew of young men is an absolute good look. We got David on the end, Alex right next to him, my good friend Marcel, Tim, and Manuel. Guys, say hi to the audience. Are you guys all ready to play some Smite? I'm pretty excited to see where this is going to go down. Does anyone want to hedge any bets with me? I'll take some odds. Odds on ESL? No? Favorites? Well, I'll tell you what, the guys who really know what they're talking about are going to do a great job of this are the two wonderful men over in the back. Is my good friend Jason Kaplan and his friend Bart. And they've come over to talk to you about this. Guys, take it away.
Sure, of course. I am Hi-Rez Bart. I'm the competitive and esports manager over at Hi-Rez Studios, and I'm thrilled to bring this here with you today.
Yeah, and hope we'll have some great action for you, as we will see, as they're saying, Team ESL versus Alternate, who will be participating a little bit later in another tournament. And why don't you just kind of give us a little overview about Smite, just for the people who are watching who haven't played it yet.
Sure. Smite is currently in closed beta. It's a third-person MOBA game. It's made with the Unreal Engine, so it's a little bit like Gears of War and Summoner's Rift, I guess is probably the most succinct way to put it. It is a skill shot only game, so even your auto attacks all have to be aimed. There is no tab targeting, and those are kind of the main highlights, and we'll see here in just a minute that it is a battleground of the gods, which is, of course, gods from many different pantheons and mythologies, and we'll be using mics.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm not really sure exactly what's happening as things are being thrown at me. But I guess let's go ahead and just kind of talk about what makes Smite different from other MOBA games. You're talking about, you know, the skill shots, which, to be honest, are extremely fun. You're also talking about, well, yeah, the skill shots. I mean, that's a huge thing. It's not to mention, you have a different theme. You have gods. You have Egyptian gods, you have Norse gods, you have Greek gods. What else is there?
I think that really the main differences are things that are a little bit more kind of second order to the third person perspective. So you have things like if someone comes to gank you, they're going to be coming out of the jungle, and the only way to see them is to physically turn and look. So it is quite different than a game with a mini-map where you can just scroll over someone and see, oh, he's left his lane, and I can see where he's coming. So I'll put the headset back on so you can hear me better. Basically, it has quite a bit of a different feel. So when you get ganked and someone's behind you and you don't know they're there, you get surprised quite often. There's a few different things about Smite that are going to be a lot different. Namely that your perspective, as well as the communication that's required. Of course, now that you cannot just click on the minimap and go see what's going on with your teammates. And the skill side of it makes playing every kind of god, especially carries, a little bit more harrowing, because if you miss those skills, it can be very costly.
Yeah, and I've had about, I want to say 10-15 hours of gameplay, and one thing that really kind of made me see that this is a different game from other MOBAs is the items. Can you kind of go into that? Because I know you have some items that stack, and you have items that stack permanently, and items that stack until you're dead, or until you die.
Yeah, so the items in Smite in general, a bit different than other MOBAs, is that every item has 3 ranks, and instead of building components into an item, you simply buy rank 1. So if it's an item that gives you attack speed and lifesteal, rank 1 gives you attack speed and lifesteal, rank 2 gives you more of that, rank 3 gives you even more yet, and then also adds a passive ability, something like on hit reduces armor. So it's always better to kind of finish the item and get those passive abilities. And there's also, as you mentioned, we have kind of stacking items. that are very, very strong. Some of them are, you know, basically there's two types of stacking items, as you mentioned. There's some that come and they do, they will remove all of their stacks on death, while the other ones, you keep the stacks through death, but don't get quite as much potency from the item. Right. And of course, hero kills give more stacks, and minion kills, you know, kind of familiar mechanic.
Okay, and actually, what is Hi-Rez's view on competitive Smite down the line? Like, what's your kind of goal?
Sure. Well, with Tribes, as I said, our previous title, we were has been very successful so far as an esport, and basically with Smite, we're taking it as from the opinion of if the community wants to play in tournaments and they're very passionate about it, we will back it 100% as we did Tribes. So, and there has been a very strong outpouring so far of wanting, you know, people wanting to play competitively. So we'll have things like Spectator Client and the custom maps that will be coming here hopefully very soon, and we'll be getting into our tournaments very quickly.
And what about, you know, gods? There is obviously a limited number of gods, you know, in each different, well, I guess...
Pantheon.
Yeah. Like, where do you go at that point from there on? I mean, if you run out, like, how many ideal gods are we going to see in this game? Sure.
So right now, with the inclusion of Cupid, who is the latest god, we are at 21 gods, as you can see here on the graphic right in front of us, is that we are, basically, we want 30 gods to be in the game when we start talking about release. So at about 2 weeks a god, that puts us in the end of this year, beginning of next year, with 30 gods, where we would kind of be talking about open beta releasing the game. So after that, it's certainly not. So for example, Cupid is a Roman god. That's our first Roman god. So we're definitely not averse to adding additional pantheons to the game and growing it as needed.
And one thing I'm curious about is skins, because you know, in League of Legends we have tons of different skins. Are you guys going to try to put out some really cool things, or you know, are you trying to cater to what people want? You know, if people are requesting, oh, let's have, you know, as you just saw, like the Angel and Devil skin, are you going to try to cater to the players?
So I think for the skin side, that's all kind of in good fun, where the a bit different to the perhaps like the gods that are chosen we put into the game. I think an interesting kind of thing is that, you know, we don't necessarily take a look at, oh, we need another Greek god, we need another, you know, Norse god. It's more that we need to fill a role. So we needed an AD carry. We wanted one that had a little bit of support potential. Okay, that's, and then through the kind of the design process, they decided on Cupid. Okay, well, Cupid's Roman. Okay, well, then we have a new pantheon. I mean, it's literally sometimes as simple as that. Is we have a role we need to fill. What kind of god can fill that role? And you know, what can we wrap the lore around in a way that is both somewhat informative and also relatively accurate and fun, and then we can do all kinds of fun stuff with the skins and make it cute and fun for the people.
And what about player testing? I'm assuming you have an internal team that handles all the balancing. Do you also, I mean, because a big part is community support, or not community relations. Do you guys actually talk with them a lot and discuss, you know, what the community is saying? If, you know, this is really overpowered, it's not really fair. Do you guys tweak things in that direction?
Sure. So when it comes to things like balancing the game, and community opinion on balance versus statistical opinion on balance versus design opinions on balance, those are kind of the three, the holy trinity, I guess, of balancing MOBA for us. Is we take a look at, you know, what is the intended design of the god, and is it being used or played or exploited in a way that is not representative of the design? So that's kind of one piece. You take a look at it, and it's nice with the with things like social media now these days, where you can, you know, just kind of open up that door and take a peek at what people are doing, and say, okay, they're all talking about the same thing. Okay, so now we have a pretty good idea of what our community wants between our forums, Reddit, social media, and those types of things. We try to, you know, have highlights of community opinion on the god balance. And then the third piece is, of course, statistical. Is, you know, the god has a win rate that's, you know, standard deviation over the rest of the gods is quite a bit of a problem, and that has to be addressed. Or if they're, you know, getting substantially more kills, these types of things. It's always we always try to look at all three of those pieces together to decide on balance.
And actually, what is your experience in particular with MOBAs?
Mine? So I came from a little bit of a Dota background, and Heroes of New Earth was kind of the game that I played primarily. I did some shoutcasting for that with game replays, and that's how I kind of got into the shoutcasting scene. My background is in business strategy, and that's how I started working at Hi-Rez and kind of shifted focus a little bit, much to my delight, into doing events and doing shoutcasting. And so my background is not
incredibly deep with MOBA, but I did play them quite a bit, semi-competitively, nothing too crazy, but did play, in some little leagues and things like that.
And actually, how did Hi-Res come up with the idea of Smite? The idea of gods. We've seen quite a few games, like Age of Empires kind of ran a little bit of a god sense. How did you guys, come up with this?
Basically, to be completely honest with you, this is my CEO's baby, and he was, had been kind of kicking around the idea of third-person MOBA, using kind of some of our other games to proof it, and was playing with it, and then one day we got new direction. That it was gods, and gods it was.
Okay, very cool. I'm really hoping to get into this game pretty soon, as we are seeing on the screen. I believe this is Odin. If you want to actually talk with him, talk about him a little bit, like what's his special abilities and what can he do? What does he bring to a fight?
Yeah, so Odin is a tanky, sustain in a way based god. He does have quite a bit of passive healing using his number 3 ability as he ranks it up. He is he can be very, very strong. Often in maybe a public game setting, he tends to get under farm. He does require quite a bit of farm. He does need those items to really stay relevant in the game, but can be exceedingly strong with the right ones and very, very difficult to kill. And does have a large AoE ultimate that drops spears down on the ground, young gear, and it traps players in it that don't have escapes where they can leap. So he can be a strong initiator as well. But in general, is kind of a push, tanky, sustain god.
And you were mentioning leveling up skills. I know one thing that's really unique with Smite is that you can have a certain option to actually auto-level skills and auto-buy items. Can you go into that and what kind of brought that about?
So that's kind of part of trying to make the game a little bit more accessible insofar as that, MOBA communities tend to be kind of, I think because of the length of the game and it's so skill-based and it's so team-based that you have, a teammate that doesn't know what they're doing can be very frustrating, and then they get frustrated, and then everyone just has a bad time. So using things like auto-level skills and auto-purchase items tends to alleviate that a bit, and it helps people understand what they're supposed to be doing. I think for the first few games, you kind of just don't look at it, and you're like, okay, great, I'm still playing now. And after a little while, you're like, why did it get that item? Why am I now building, why am I getting run speed and consumables first? Why am I, I think it kind of eases you into it. That in addition, of course, community sites with builds and those types of things. But to begin with, sorry, I'm laughing at chat. The auto-level skills and abilities tends to be a very, very helpful tool for new players.
And speaking of frustration, sometimes in MOBAs you have games last really long. And in Smite, I've noticed they actually go generally quicker because you have at certain levels your death timer increases. It's not based on time, if I'm correct. It's based on what level you're at the time when you die. How's that?
I'm sorry, say again.
Oh, the death timers can be really frustrating. How long games last? How long does Hi-Res expect most games to last?
Okay, gotcha. So yeah, one of the kind of nice things and what I really enjoy about Smite personally when I play it is kind of the fact that it is about 25 to 35 minutes is kind of the normal game time, and that's for me is much better because I'm between tribes and Smite very, very, very busy with tournaments and organizing of things. So it's nice to be able to be able to see the game end and enjoy it and maybe get a couple in an hour. But that also has some ramifications in the gameplay, of course. You have things like the the leveling curve is very, very steep. So that in the beginning you get your first few levels very, very quickly.
Right.
It also helps that, of course, with gods being able to not get out so far ahead in public level, of course, at high level of play. Through very effective last hitting and god kills and staying in the lane and sustain, you will get out ahead. But in kind of low level play, everyone kind of stays a little bit closer together, which is, I think, a good thing for the community in the game, that you don't necessarily have someone that dies a couple times in an early game, all of a sudden being level 6 where everyone else is 12.
Yeah. And I noticed one thing that I really loved about this is that when you actually go into a game, you get a little pop-up saying, "Are you ready to join the game?"
Yes.
And it makes sure everyone that is going to play is ready, because it's really annoying when you have someone disconnect or someone AFK in champion select. And what else is Hi-Res doing? Kind of innovative things like that.
Sure. Actually, in this last patch, we just introduced a new feature that is as you play consecutive games, it gives you % more experience per game. And then, of course, if you leave a game early or quit out or don't accept the queue, it resets that and also gives you the deserter penalty, which is 10 minutes that you're unable to queue. So that's kind of those are very reactionary and very kind of community driven. If you know there is a problem of people queue dodging or those types of things, we do look to alleviate it, of course. And beyond that, you do have quite a lot of notification. It pops up in the game as.
Yeah, and the currency system in the game is really interesting. Is that you have actually? Can you go into? I'm gonna let you do that because it's really cool. Yeah, the currency system.
Okay, sure. So. So the currency system is a bit different here in Smite. You know, you have, of course, you have your paid currency and you have your earned currency, which would be experience and gems, respectively. Excuse me. The way that you know, Smite is a little bit different in that actually our cosmetic items, some of them can also be earned through XP. So you don't necessarily have to buy things to look different, which is kind of nice, I think. But yeah, in general, you can buy currency to buy gods if you don't want to, you know, grind them out, so to speak, or you can buy skins. But we don't, in our games, sell things that affect gameplay, so you can't buy anything that another player can't earn that has any kind of effect on the gameplay. So it's, you know, pretty accommodating, we like to think, and.
Just trying to go with the pay-to-win model.
Yes, not really necessarily the best way to go. So yeah, not the pay-to-win model. We are the free-to-play, not pay-to-win sort of mentality. You know, something that is inspired by, you know, League of Legends and then vis-a-vis Tribes is how that's kind of, we expanded on that system for our game Tribes and have then now kind of segued that over into Smite and kind of understanding how we want to monetize the game.
If I'm not mistaken, all you can really do with the currency right now, as we were saying, is just buy champions and skins. But in the future, might we see boosts or something like that?
Potentially, but to be honest, the level requirement right now, and the reason I think that there isn't necessarily boosts, is that the level is more of an indicator of time played and does a little bit of segmentation of the player population, but is not currently in the beta state that, you know, important, so to speak. So it doesn't have a lot of ramifications on what you can do in the game. It's very, very low end. Like, you have to be level 6 to play in the normal queue. Below that, you're in like a newbie queue, and you have to, there's a level, you know, gate on playing in the 5-man queue, those types of things.
Yeah.
So as kind of the features expand and the types of things that you can unlock, I think, get bigger, and as, you know, the need for experience becomes more and more, I think, yeah, boosts will be the. I mean, we have boosts in Tribes as well as Global Gen 2 prior games, so I think it stands to reason that it's certainly likely that Smite would at some point have boosts as well.
And what about the like whole laning phase that happens? It's definitely a lot quicker. You see people start grouping up really quickly to help the game progress really fast. Can you kind of describe why Hi-Rez kind of went with that?
Sure. I think in general, it's once you get around 10 minutes, that's basically mid-game for Smite. So the laning phase is definitely less dependent on last hits and kind of, you know, long-term farming in a lane. Your carries can get out ahead much faster through things like jungling and ganking than they can necessarily sitting in a lane for a long time and just farming creep kills. So I think because of that, and because you get passive gold and experience when minions die around you, less for when they're killed by your tower, and then you get 30% more if you get the last hit. So there is, of course, the amount of the gold does increase with last hits, but it's not quite necessarily as important as getting all the last hits as you would see in the more Dota derivative games. So I think because of that, and it a little bit discourages kind of staying in the same lane and encourages player kills. You see a lot more ganking, and those types of things are much more frequent. So that, I believe, is why you see the laning phase ending so early in Smite, although it is kind of just a characteristic, a quirk, I guess, if you will, of the population right now. I'm sure that at some point, over the length of the game, we will see, you know, strategies in which people stay in lane much longer, those types of things. I would not be surprised to see it all.
And speaking of last hitting, how does targeting work in a 3D environment? Because, you know, in other MOBAs you have an overhead view, but this one you're kind of in a third-person view right behind them. How do you target things easily, you know, in terms of minions?
Sure. So the minions, you know, there is not tab targeting. You can't select, you know, what you want to hit necessarily. So even the auto attacks, everything is basically skill shot based, similar to if you played Bloodline Champions perhaps, or you know, there are some other games that do have similar mechanics. But so, you know, if you're playing a ranged god, you know, and you're shooting little balls of lightning because you're Zeus, you basically have to aim and hit the target minion that you're, or the minion that you're targeting rather, or that you would like to hit. And currently in the game we do have a feature where you can turn on a indicator arrow of where you're going to be aiming. The abilities all have ground targeters that show you where you can where your spells are going to go. So there is some things that kind of ease it a bit, but it is primarily a all skill shot based game. So if you're not good with Priestess of the Moon from Dota, it's maybe not going to be the best choice, but it is quite a bit of fun, and it is relatively forgiving. I mean, I think that you have to have some concern for skill shots on gods, but in general, the minions have pretty forgiving hit cylinders, so you can really make it happen without massive amounts of FPS skill or anything.
And you were mentioning different types of champions earlier, and you mentioned junglers, and I know in Smite that there's different buffs and stuff like that. Can you kind of go into that a little bit?
Sure. So we'll see when we kind of get into the map here that you have the jungle is actually full of buff camps instead of just in League of Legends having the two. It is basically you have 6 different types of buffs. I'll just kind of go through them, I guess. You have a blue buff, which is a mana buff. So you kill the creep that has basically a blue belt looking thing that circles around you, and if you kill the blue one, you get increased mana regen. There is a cooldown reduction buff. There is a run speed buff. There is a health regen buff. There is a damage buff, so it makes your skills, both your skills and abilities, do more damage. And there is a defense buff that, of course, is damage mitigation from magical and physical damage. So it's actually interesting because the junglers can very early on be substantially stronger, especially with things like defense and health buffs, where the enemy god being at level 1, 2, and 3 can't really do enough damage to really overcome the health buff. So you get some interesting situations in which you have these gods being very, very strong early on, and then weak again in mid game, and then very strong again at the late game for many of the junglers.
What about global objectives? Because I know there are 2 big ones.
Sure.
And one of them, actually, if you can give us the official name of them, it'd be a little easier.
Sure. So you have the Golden Fury, which is like the dragon style, which gives you experience and gold for your whole team. And then you have the Fire Giant that gives you the buff for your team, that gives you attack speed and regen and those kinds of things.
And I know one thing that's really cool with the Fire Giant, it's really like it's like you're raiding in World of Warcraft. It's really an interactive fight.
Yes.
There's a lot of things that happen, and there's like this tight area to get in, and it kind of creates these really cool team fights.
Yeah, you have lots of team fights there. And kind of another thing about Smite is that there's not invisibility. There's no invisible gods. There's no kind of concept of invisible. So you have wards. All wards can see other wards, those types of things. So it can be, so in a heavily contested spot like the Fire Giant, you have a kind of interesting, I guess, meta game, if you will, of ward placements and denial, and then lots of team fights going there. And you'll see things like some of the strong teams will do things like go into the break line of sight, go into the Fire Giant's lair, and use some abilities, but not attack him, not aggro him, and just to make the noise, because other players will stand outside to hear the abilities firing, and then we'll go in there thinking, oh, we're going to ambush them, and then the tables have turned sort of situation. It's pretty cool to see people coming up with emergent stuff like that, and that's kind of one of the best parts about making competitive online games. You get to see people doing things that you in your wildest dreams never imagined.
Yeah, and I know one thing that's really cool is that there's phoenixes that kind of guard your little base.
Sure.
And if you take one of those out, the minions become stronger that are going into your base, and then you have the Minotaur at the end, which is also another interactive fight. It's not you're just killing a building to win the game. You're actually fighting, taking damage from them as well as taking damage from the other players.
Yeah, it is. So the Minotaur is kind of the shrine of the game, and as you said, it is a large interactive Minotaur. So he stands there holding his axe, and then you break into the temple, I guess, and he comes to life and starts hitting stuff with his axe, and each hit on gods that he does scales his damage. The Phoenixes, which are kind of the inhibitor barracks structure, of course, come back as Phoenixes, but they do the same thing. They do additional damage with each hit that it hits on a god, and each Phoenix that's down actually makes the Minotaur weaker. So if you have one Phoenix down, he is substantially stronger than if you have all of them down. So it's kind of you often have those decision-making situations where it's, do we try to take out a second or third Phoenix, or should we go try to just take down the Minotaur right away and get a win? But it sounds like we will be getting going here relatively soon. So I think we'll just quickly talk about how what the picking phase is going to be like. Currently it is everyone's all pick. There is duplicate gods. And so I expect that we'll see some of the newest god, Cupid, here, hopefully, and we will be getting underway here shortly.
Yeah. Are you guys actually planning on implementing a system where you have kind of like a rank system, or you can like gain a certain stat to prove how good you are, and then play with people around your same stat, as well as not have duplicate champion gods?
Sure. So currently the just general normal queue is match made based on an ELO system. It's of course not exposed, so building a ranked matchmaking is actually something that we are looking at very strongly as a great feature for Smite. And with kind of the normal queue being based on ELO already, a lot of the groundwork is there. So hopefully it's something that we can bring to you guys relatively soon. And with the ELO system being part of the normal queue already, it's you have already players really pushing themselves to the top. And you have high-level games that you can I watch on stream sometimes. Sometimes I get involved with them and get my butt kicked. But it is really kind of cool to see people the different levels of play. I can go get on my normal account and beat everyone, and then go play with someone else. Go join a game with one of these high elo players. Some of the League of Legends guys and those types of things, and it's just like a completely different game, and that's awesome to see in any game, really. I mean, same thing with Tribes or any other competitive titles. You have these huge disparities in skill, and that's what makes them able to be played as esports, is that the skill ceiling is high enough that a really good player can be significantly and measurably better than a strong player, and then the pro gamers are even again another step above. So I think that's a nice thing about Smite as well.
And speaking of that, there's one thing that's really frustrating is that you do extremely well in whatever lane you're in, and the rest of your team does bad. And in different games, it really affects it differently. Like in some different games, you can actually carry your team.
Sure.
What about in Smite?
I'm sure. Yeah, you can carry your team. It is. It's a little bit interesting because your physical damage-based carries and tend to, if they are seriously strong tanks on the other team, there's some very tanky gods that can also have some carry potential. That tends to be very hard for you to deal with. So team comp can be very important. But if you do have some potential for both magic and physical damage, it can be very interesting. But I do see we are moving into the picking phase here, so we are going to be watching. It looks like Arachne here using that Black Widow skin. Arachne, a very strong jungler, can also be a very effective ganker and does have good lane presence if needed. But it's a little bit of a different role for her. It takes some kind of different strategy to make that happen. We'll talk about her skills kind of when we get into the game. But their team looks like it's primarily an AOE-based team. Amir is a tank initiator with an AoE stun as well as a large AoE ultimate, and he can kind of break up team fights with his ice wall that'll race from the ground. Artemis, the second god that is now locked in, you'll see, is a hard carry, ranged physical damage. You have Odin, who is, we spoke about earlier, who is a tank but also has that big AoE ultimate to hold people in. And then they have Zeus, who is probably very familiar with most MOBA players. He's still Zeus. He's burst damage magic caster. In Smite, he has a large AoE ultimate, Rain Cloud, and kind of the unique mechanic for Zeus in Smite is that his auto attacks and skills all put a stack of lightning onto gods or minions, and then he has a second skill to detonate them. And but it looks like we are going to be jungling here with Arachne. She did just pick up in that ability tab under Other, the Hand of the Gods, which is a AoE Smite-like ability from League of Legends. That's also something that we didn't necessarily touch on in the pregame, is that different from League, for instance, the summoner spells are actually purchased in-game here, and their abilities. So here the Arachne is purchased for 500 gold, the Hand of the Gods, and there you see it has also gone for level 1 Spiderlings. So the way this god is able to jungle is she lays eggs that then pop out 2 spiders, and so what she's going to try to do here is actually get to this creep camp effectively, as you can see, before the minion spawns, and it will not block the spawn of the camp to have these egg sacs here. And she'll probably try to get down 4 or potentially 5 of them, which is kind of the critical mass to where she can just hit the buff camp just one time and then it'll die. Doing a little bit of taunting there, I see.
I'm not gonna lie, that skin is actually pretty scary, but actually really cool looking. And we were talking about abilities just now. What other type of abilities can you actually buy? And in your experience, when's like the right time to buy them?
Obviously, as a jungler, you want to take your Smite very early on. For me, it's usually it's a situation where if you are doing well and you go back to the shop, you spend all your mana, you dump all your health, whatever, you take down a tower, those kind of things. and you go back, and you have enough gold to finish an item, and then you have 600-700 gold left over. I usually like to pick up an ability item at that point, generally something like an AoE movement buff or something along those lines. But here, you can see those spiders popping out, and interestingly enough, Raki going for this level 1 defense camp. I guess we'll probably progress over to, actually, I don't know, this is a little bit of I've never actually seen this strategy for jungling, so it'll be interesting. Looks like he's going to go take out the red buff right away as well. This, generally, in general, players will start with the health buff to give them additional HP 5, but she is actually jungling here, and usually the jungler is in the left lane, but here she is jungling over in the right lane, which is a pretty interesting tactic here. It looks like going to wait for the second pod to be able to be laid for initiating. No, going to go ahead and go right in. And her Smite is up, of course, so here we're going to see that come out. There, indeed, it is. And we'll see what she takes. Okay, her second ability is that Drain Life ability, where she, Arachne jumps onto the target's back and silences them. And here you'll see it. And it basically leeches health, vamps health from the target. So she can, have a little bit of utility as well. Her third ability is an AoE slow that shoots a web that, is then ground targeted and is persisting. It looks like we may have a gank coming in. Oh, already. Not even the need for the gank. We have Amir putting down that stun, followed by his piercing shards. Get the kill. Over in the middle lane, our matchup is Zeus versus Artemis, and it looks like potentially our Arachne is going to come look to put a little hurting over there on the mid lane, or maybe pick up this white camp just to her left. Nope, is going to go. Let's see what she's able to do here. She comes into the middle lane, really wanting to wait until she has enough mana. I believe it is going to be 50 before she can cast a spell. There you see her going, and no, it needs a bit more. Going to put on, just a little bit of damage there. Does get caught in that Artemis trap and then hit with a volley, so we'll now need to fall back in the jungle, maybe look to pick up her farm, potentially go pick up a mana camp here in the top right of your screen to the blue potion to get a little bit more farm. But doing a good job there, making sure to when the Smite Hand of the Gods item is down to go and put some pressure on the mid lane and those types of things and keep active is kind of really the name of the game with Arachne. You can actually get pretty far behind with her if you don't make sure to make your presence felt.
Yeah, we did see when she went to go gank middle is that when she was attacking that Artemis, she would slow down.
Yes.
And that is very different than any other MOBA we've seen. Could you kind of explain that and how that actually came about?
Sure. So that is true, yes. When you auto attack in Smite, you get 50% rooted. So you're slowed by half. And that basically was there was a problem, when we were playing with the kind of WASD movement where your kind of ranged casters would never be able to get away from melee. Ever. So the problem was that both that and if you had a ranged attack damage carry like Artemis, that they would be able to kind of kite you infinitely. And that it was just too difficult without making someone root to attack like you have in other MOBAs, which is, and then you have, of course, orb walking and things like that where, you can cancel the animations and make that slowdown period shorter. We elected to go with a slow instead of a full kind of stop to attack.
Okay.
Because that didn't feel good either. We tested that as well. So this is, I think, a pretty happy medium for keeping it from overrunning the range, but also keeping them, kind of in check with the kiting of melee characters.
And we were talking a little earlier here, saying Arachne, it's a little weird for her to start off on the right side jungle, and that kind of goes along with the whole meta of the game, involving, how lanes are played and stuff. What metas have you seen so far coming out of like the past tournament that happened?
Sure. So the kind of some of like the interesting things you'll see is like you've seen teams early on like taking like everyone will get what's the equivalent of Radiance from Dota or Sunfire Cape from League of Legends, which is AoE magic damage passive with some protection, and also the Smite ability that Arachne has, and going and diving the enemy Minotaur about 12 times as a team and killing it with all the towers up in about 8 minutes. It was like, and of course, we had to balance away from that, but you did see those kinds of things. For a while with the reinforced boots, which are kind of the defensive boots, had 10 HP 5 on them at their third rank. And that was actually had to be half. Here we see the ultimate of Arachne going to come out and get that pull in onto Amir. And now he is silenced. Going to be unable to stun. They're going to be able to get a kill here onto this Amir. Looks like the Board Stun comes out from Artemis. That mid has come over to help with this gank. but our Arachne here not in too much trouble as Odin and Zeus do a nice job keeping the enemy team here in check. Oh, there comes that Odin ultimate coming out, and there's Zeus ultimate right on top of it, doing so much damage to him. He can't get out of there. He does not have a leap ability to get over those walls. Now silenced again, and that's gonna be a second kill coming out here over in the left side lane. So nice job by our friendly team to get that gank, and there you see the synergy between Odin and Zeus.
Yeah, that's actually extremely deadly, not to mention Ymir, if he is in there, pops his AoE ultimate down, which slows him as well. And the thing with that is that his little wall ability that Ymir can do, you can't really hit through it at all.
No. Yeah, the abilities don't go through the wall that he puts up, so against range casters, it can be very, very effective, and you can kind of, clown people and drop that right in front of them as they try to, especially gods like Ra, who is on the other enemy team, who, has these long kind of charge up ultimate beam attacks, and you can just control him a little bit and throw that right in front of him right as he dumps his ultimate into nothing.
Well, we haven't seen Arachne actually back yet to go by, and you were saying earlier, there's an item in the game that's just like a Sunfire Cape or Radiance. What items in Smite are actually very unique to the game?
We have several kind of very, very different items. In general, they like for instance, we just add an item that's the Fatalis that gives you attack speed and run speed, and also a little bit of life regen at the highest level. We have, in general, the way the items work with every item having a passive, you have very familiar items from, other MOBAs as well. Just some archetypal kind of, crit, attack speed, and damage sort of items, but it does kind of get interesting with the slows. And for instance, there's the Gem of Isolation, where magical abilities will slow on hit, and things like that that tend to really augment the gameplay and makes, some interesting choices when it comes to, okay, what's my position on the team? Arachne here is going to be, a ganker, and looks like she's going to go for actually a carry-style build, picking up that Doombringer, which is critical damage increase as well as crit strike, rank 1 when she went back to the base earlier. So an interesting a build here, actually. I personally don't care for this God's Bless. Oh, nice stun coming out, getting that pull in onto Artemis. Artemis is not going to be able to, is going to be able to get away, or looks like maybe a bit of a tower dive coming out from our Arachne here. The Zeus ultimate from the friendly team coming out as well, and there you see her dropping that web ball, which will slow down gods as they go through it. So, for instance, as Arachne, you can kind of, you could make a good case for a build that's primarily focused around that AoE slow, using that Gem of Isolation item to further slow characters that are hit by it. So, there is some kind of, you can really get pretty creative with the builds, I think. And here you see it coming out again, you'll see kind of exactly what it does. Electing to pull in Sobek, he did already use his dash ability that you saw there, so he's going to be unable to dash out of this. Take quite a bit of damage from the tower. Dropping his ultimate is Sobek here, lurking in the waters. Ymir getting that stun out, and then the piercing shards. However, it's not going to be enough to get a kill. Odin is coming in as well. We should see a leap here momentarily from him, and potentially going to hold these guys in place with his ultimate. And there you go, he's going to pick up Ymir with that ultimate. Here comes the silence coming out. That is an attack speed buff that's come out from Zeus. And here we have Odin going in. There you see the Ymir ultimate sounding off. Trying to run out of it is Arachne. Does take 444 damage from it. It's quite a bit. And she's going to go down here to these minions and Sobek. So first death coming out for our Arachne that we're watching. And we're going to see her continue to build into this Deathbringer that, as you see, does quite a bit of crit chance and strike damage as well. So definitely going for that physical damage carry style build.
As we just saw right there, she picked up a couple of health pots, and I remember when I was playing this, I don't know if it changed from the last time I played, you can't pick up, health pots and a ward. You have to choose between the two, and that really makes a really hard strategy pick for yourself.
Yeah, currently as the design is envisioned is that the consumables are very, very cheap. They're 50 gold a piece, so even wards are much cheaper than you have in other games. And so because of that, we kind of expect you to burn through them. So it's kind of, as you said, there is a little bit of a strategy choice you have to make, do I need health potions, or do you need wards? Of course, as the game progresses, your health pool gets larger and larger, the health pots do less, so wards probably make more sense, but we also have health potions, we also have potions that give you kind of additional attack power, additional defense, or substantially more, or that are kind of end game sort of 3,000 gold potions that persist until you die. So there's some pretty interesting choices that you can make using that consumable slot.
And we're seeing in this game actually, he's doing a lot of work, running around, ganking quite a bit. And did you guys focus more on the team fighting, aspect of the game, or did you want to focus more on the laning phase aspect of the game? Where you can get your early advantage and just take it from there.
Oh, it was definitely definitely much more focused on the team fight side of the game. That kind of goes back to maybe what we were talking about a bit earlier. We have a huge team fight coming out here, picking up 2 kills as our friendly team. Nice pull in by Arachne. We get that Sobek back in, and he is definitely going to go down here as too many characters on him. And great job coming out here from our friendly team. There you see those crits coming out from Arachne. And they may look to even push this left lane. It looks like they are going to kind of move back into maybe continuing to roam and gank where possible. As Arachne continues to jungle, of course.
I don't think he's missed one pull yet.
No, that's very, very impressive, especially considering that they, I'm sure, have, there is latency involved here. We are playing on a, no, actually, are we playing? Yeah, we're playing on a live server, so they do have some latency involved. So, but doing a really nice job with this Arachne, getting those pulls very, very consistently, and making sure that, and that kind of goes to what I was saying earlier, where if she doesn't prove her worth, so to speak, she'll get behind very quickly. But here you see that assist experience in gold and even some kills here and there, while doing a nice job keeping up the jungle, is keeping Arachne very much in this game. And once that Deathbringer gets finished, and she'll be really a force to reckon with. And here you see kind of now we're looking at about 10 minutes into the game, almost 11 now, and this is really the mid-game. I mean, very eponymously, it's level 20 cap, so most of the gods here you see are an average of level 10. So we are, very, very soundly in the mid-game.
And actually, during that last team fight, we saw a lot of medals pop up, a lot of, assists, player kills. Is there going to be an achievement system implemented into the game?
As it stands right now, it of course is more of a badge of just kind of, okay, you've done this sort of thing. But with Tribes, our other title, we do have some achievements, and I expect that's something that we're kind of approaching more and more as we get towards release of, figuring out, specifically how, we want to kind of incentivize players to feel good, which is kind of the ultimate. Oh, here we have a nice ult coming up from actually both the Zeus's here. Yes, the enemy Zeus is going to go down here. Borisman coming up from the friendly Artemis. Here comes the slow. The Boar coming up from the enemy Artemis as well. That's it does stun friendly gods in a large circle around Artemis. I'm sorry, enemy gods. So. The friendly gods on your screen are going to get stunned by that. The Boar can be killed as well, though. Oh, a nice wall coming off from that enemy Amir, going to prevent any chase into jungle on him. But Odin is coming up from behind him here, and it looks like Arachne's going to come in as well. No, they elect to actually fall back now. So
still pushing that side. That looks like they actually might go try to pick him as he starts to back away.
Yeah, let's see if they're able to pick him up. It looks like now Odin is in a bit of trouble in the middle lane. But Arachne wants to go pick up this mana buff, and indeed she will. Go ahead and use that Hand of the Gods again. You see those crits coming out, getting larger and larger. But she's going to need to probably want to get her damage up to on physical attack, probably over 150, 200 to really be able to make a difference here in the as we move into the late game, because the gods are going to continue to get tankier and tankier on the enemy team, especially gods like Amir that build tank style in general usually. So she may have a little bit of trouble, as this is not the strongest attack animation or attack speed or run speed. She can have some trouble dealing massive amounts of damage physically in the late game. But the build that our player here is going for is definitely one geared towards the late game with that Deathbringer, and I would expect him to maybe move into, my guess is going to be something like either the Chin's Blades or the Executioner. Chin's Blades deal magic damage equal to percentage of the target's health.
I've had bad experiences with those.
And that thing will do quite a bit of damage, or perhaps something that breaks armor and it gives a bit of attack speed, which is that Executioner. So there you can see a crit coming out for 82 on Sobek, so he already getting pretty tanky, as she was critting for over 250 on the minions. So there you kind of see the dangers of going up against these very tanky gods with a pure physical damage build.
We've been seeing a lot of pings going on the map, and one thing is your mouse controls your movement, or your camera, basically. How did you guys kind of overcome that?
So basically, in Smite, you depress the spacebar button, and while it's held down, your mouse is free, so you're locked into your view, of course. But you can, mouse over your abilities and look at buffs and those types of things, and of course, ping on the mini-map to indicate where you want things. And actually, you can left-click and right-click to give different pings. Left-clicking is kind of, go here, and right-clicking is more like go away from here. So you kind of have the positive and I guess in a way, the negative ping to kind of say, to communicate, more effectively without, talking to someone over VoIP. So
Yeah, we did see a tower go down earlier on the right side. It was the first tower of the game. What's the tower's worth in this? I mean, it gives you gold, but how much exactly?
It gives you, I believe, 150 gold for everyone on your team.
Okay.
So it is a fairly substantial amount. It's not, it's not hugely over the top, but the pushing the wave is really what gives you lots and lots of gold. The minions are pretty generous as well with experience. And the towers give you, of course, map control is kind of the primary thing that's nice about taking out the towers. Of course, it does raise your gold differential from the other team, which is always a good thing to be out farming the enemy team. But it does not necessarily mean that getting a tower does not necessarily mean, okay, now you're going to be able to get your next item, no problem, because, we may have a gank coming out here in the jungle. Zeus now, Silence taking some damage here. He now is getting cleaned. Oh, yeah, he's going to have a lot of trouble. You see him using that shield that will do build stacks, as you can see there, with each auto attack, but he's going to go down here. If he tries to get into tower range, he's just going to get grabbed. There it is. And there goes down our Zeus in the jungle. There's a nice shot coming out there from that Arachne, picking him up in the jungle.
And in terms of leveling, how does this kind of work? In other MOBAs, the AP, the Magic players, really do more damage off levels than really items. And the AD carries or the range carries do more damage with items than levels. How does that work in Smite?
In general, in kind of the first 20 minutes of the game. So while characters get into about where we are now, the 13, 14, 15 level range, it is levels that definitely, as your abilities do scale pretty solidly with leveling them. So, you'll go from doing 90 damage to 150 to 250 to 350 damage, with an ability. So getting rank, your max rank on your abilities can be very, very good. We have another gank coming out here onto the Ra, jumping on the back here, getting hit by that Boar Sun as the Ra as well. Arachne putting in those auto attacks, and there he does go down indeed. As I was saying, so the casters tend to get much better through levels early on in the game, and partially that is because they can't build those very, very high magic damage items. So they really need to stack, and there is an item called the Rod of Tahuti that gives MP5 as well as additional magic power, and then gives you a percentage of your magic power on top of that. So you can build into items that build your magic power, of course, as well as, maybe some health and some other stats that you may need to kind of get to that point. We have another hook coming out here from Arachne. Nice job picking up that Zeus there. He's silenced and now slowed from this ice rush coming out. A nice wall coming out as well to secure that kill. And we have what looks to be a very, very strong position for our friendly side team. And there, over in the distance, you can see the Phoenix as Arachne elects to go back with full health and mana.
Yeah, actually, Artemis is pushing that right side. She's trying to defend that tower.
There it is, yep.
And then with, 3 or 4 members of the other team dead, they're going to get this Phoenix, and then we're going to start seeing the first... Actually, what do you call them in Smite?
Fire minions.
Fire minions, because they have these fire weapons that look really cool and do a lot of damage against gods, which I found out.
They do, yeah. That's something, I guess, that is significantly different, I think, playing Smite than playing maybe other MOBA games, is that the minions actually, especially early on, do a lot of damage. Like, if you get caught out up against a wave, and maybe you get stunned, and their whole, archer line takes a few shots at you, it deals, it'll deal quickly, very quickly, 250, 400 damage, depending on how many volleys they get off on you. And early game, when you only have 600 life, it really can be quite a problem. So managing minion aggro actually is a very important part of the early game in lane.
And what about, if you have a bad early game, is the rest of the game pretty much unforgiving to you? Like, how easy is it for you to really come back? Because it mostly comes around team fights, but as we're seeing right now, these team fights are happening so quickly, and they're completely one-sided.
Yeah.
What can the other team really do right now to kind of get back in the game?
With their team composition, they really need to get that Sobek needs to be initiating. There you see the Boar Stun coming out from both Artemis. So and again, we've had most of our fights initiated by the Artemis, the AD carry, using her ultimate that is a range stun to initiate. But really, I prefer definitely to see the there it is, the first miss coming out. Artemis activating her sprint here. You're going to see it's going to be hard to really slow her down. Arachne's still trying to find a place to put that web ball. Oh, a nice juke coming out there from the enemy Artemis to get out of that movement slow. And here we'll probably see Odin use his attack speed buff in just a moment to take this tower down. No, here comes Sobek. And there you see the flick coming out from Sobek. So that's what I was saying, get him to initiate with that ability, pick off a couple gods, because the AoE presence of our friendly team is so significant that they're having a really hard time dealing with the amount of damage that's just coming out. Just magical AoE burst damage that comes out from our friendly team here. So that would be kind of my limited expert opinion on how our enemy team can maybe get back into this.
As we're seeing right now, as Arachne kind of came up to the tower, there's these lines in the ground that really show you the range of the tower, correct?
Yes, that is correct. That, again, is kind of something to, you know, everyone, it's one of those things in MOBA that's kind of like held sacred, is like, sometimes it's like, oh, you don't know the tower range, these kinds of things, especially in the Dota games. It's like, does that really add anything to the game? And in my opinion, I think it's probably better to have it this way, where, you know where the tower range is by your 15th game playing in, a MOBA. But, just to show it, just to expose it, go ahead and do it is not necessarily, doesn't take away much from the experience, in my opinion. So I think it doesn't, it's one of those kind of small changes that, does, I guess, technically lower the skill ceiling in a unforgiving, strange way, but it is ultimately better for, the gamer as a whole to just, have those kind of things that help them along.
Yeah, it definitely helps you, try to learn how to, it helps you learn how to play, because we see Smite, it's very easy for people who play any other MOBA to get into it and really understand how to play.
Yeah, that's right. It's actually pretty interesting with Smite. You do have kind of any MOBA crowd, any MOBA player can, immediately kind of pick it up and be like, oh, okay, I get it. WASD, third person, and you do MOBA stuff. Okay, cool. I farm, I buy items, but also you get, we get, some other kind of pretty interesting, communities. We have,
there's the King
here
Blades.
it is, the King Blades here. So attack speed, health, and physical power. And there you see 30% chance to deal magic damage equal to 10% of the target's health. No, but actually going to pick up the Heartseeker. So
this is our first stacking of the game, or the first stacking of they're actually seeing. Can you explain the Heartseeker for us?
Sure. So this is a very, very aggressive pickup from our Arachne here. The Heartseeker is a stacking item for physical damage. It increases your crit chance as well as your attack power and attack speed. Or no, I'm sorry, attack speed, not attack power. It does, of course, it also gives you stacks per kill. Will stack up to 40 times and do reset on death. So feeling very, very little bit chippy here is Arachne. Maybe with a chance to pick up a god kill here. Does get stunned by that board, but she's gonna be able to turn right around onto this Artemis. Her auto attack's hitting quite a bit harder. Gonna go ahead and fall back, let her team pick that kill up. Double kill coming out for our friendly Artemis as well. So
did we call that a miss? Did we call that a miss? I mean, as it was going to him,
we have here comes the Fire Giant. So here you see they've gone into the Fire Giant cave and they have aggroed him, and he's going to go down quite quickly. Jumping on the Fire Giant's back, a time-honored tradition from Arachne, and now is stuck behind him and is forced to eat that lava. But it is okay. They are going to get this kill, and you'll see the buff around the circle, the buff around the waist of the characters here, as many of them fall back. So you have physical power and movement speed, I'm sorry, not crit. And then you gain physical power with every stack. So it, and then now moving into basically that item is cleave. It'll cleave at rank 3. So that's a little bit of an interesting build to me.
It's really nice because the synergy of their team, they have Odin to really lock him in there, and then she can just cleave away if, he lands on multiple people, not to mention the Ymir can just stun him. It really, it seems like a really smart pickup.
We'll definitely see if it does pan out. But, it has kind of been, those team fights have been going a little bit, they've been kind of picking up 2 gods at a time. It hasn't been,
kind of one-sided.
Yeah. It has been a bit one-sided, but interesting pickups here from this Arachne. The cleave that she's just picked up also gives run speed, as does the Heartseeker. So, kind of going for a bit of a run speed build now, and that was kind of something that we were talking about earlier, saying, can Arachne really be an effective late game physical carry? And that part of the problem was being able to stay in range with that 50% movement speed slow. So nice to see her going. Oh, nice pick up there with that pull in. Artemis will go ahead and drop her board stun, but the friendly Artemis here is just going to tower dive with that buff from the Fire Giant. Not too worried about the tower. And there you see the kill coming out. Friendly Artemis also go ahead and pop her sprint. So now they're going to knock this tower down as well, and now all of our towers are down for the enemy team, and we may see some of the pushes here into the Phoenix that you see there flapping around in the background, and there you see kind of what we were talking about, those auto attacks doing upwards of 250 damage, which is exactly what you want as Arachne, because you want to get to the point where your crits will one-shot minions. So the large minions, the kind of ogre guys you running lane, can be very important to help with the pushes. And now we're going to see, stun coming out from the enemy Ymir, and then kind of curiously using his wall to block them off in his base. So now he's going to be immune to CC there. So when the gods blow gold, in general, when they use their ultimates, they are immune to crowd control. Not slow in the like, and certainly not matched with damage, but just ultimates. And then that may have been an ace. Scored deicide. Indeed has ESL 4, which is killing all of the enemy gods. And now we are going to see the victory come out as that Minotaur comes to life. He's putting out the damage. You see the chunks getting bigger and bigger coming out of that Odin. But they're going to be able to clean this up, no problem here. And now we're going to see the nice death animation as he falls through Zeus and bowing at his feet for the victory.
Yeah, that was actually quite an exciting game, and I kind of wanted to touch on this real quick because it kind of just kept going, it actually kept happening. But you were mentioning how Phoenixes and the Minotaur, when they hit you consecutively, it does more and more damage. What about objectives? Does the Fire Giant do that? Does the
Yes, they do. The Golden Harp or the Golden Fury does not. The Fire Giant does though. So and the towers do as well. So these are all kind of things to basically prevent tower diving.
And I looked at the score screen. I really like this because even in game, the stats you see, it really helps you get a lot of information. It really helps you realize, hey, we see the blue team right here has a lot of physical damage, not that too much magical, so let's build some armor so we can stay alive, kind of thing. And I mean, what kind of did you guys go through in kind of creating the score screen? I mean, obviously you want to show kills, that's assist gold, items. Yeah,
so exactly. Kind of going, piggybacking on that, there is certain things that are like, you got to have this, right? You got to have the level, you got to have the name, you got to have the player name, some of the items not necessarily the items they have, but kills that's assist gold, right? And that's kind of something that's a bit different about Smite is that at any point during the game you can see exactly what items someone has, how far along they are, literally what their farm is. So at any point you can compare your gold farm to the enemy's gold farm, which is especially interesting kind of in like a middle lane matchup. As a player, you can look and be like, wow, he's 500 gold ahead of me. Okay, right. I need to get him out of the lane. I need to get him, force him to go back so I can catch back up. And then, of course, the stats bars do make it pretty easy to just, at a glance. It's kind of obviously what they're designed for is just to say, okay, I tap tab to bring it up real quick. Okay, their team's going mostly physical damage, like you said. I'm going to build damage reflect. Okay, they're all magic damage. Okay, I'm gonna go for. There's an ability item here that you can see on Artemis. The third one that she has there in that ability slot on the friendly team is called the Aegis, and basically it makes you immune to damage for 2 seconds and rooted. So okay, against our friendly team here, it probably would have made a lot of sense for our enemy team to pick up that Aegis on at least a couple of the gods, so that when these AoE ults all kind of pop at once, they can just avoid all that damage and potentially maybe could have turned some of these team fights.
I'm looking at the stats again. I know when I play, I typically try to, how far can I get that bar to go up the stat line?
You can, if you build all of your items, it'll fill up. I've seen it for physical, and I've actually never seen it for anything but physical and magical damage. Defense, I think the items give too much utility as well.
All right, well, we're going to go back to Sean on the stage. Actually, going to give away some items. So, Sean, why don't you take it away?